Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review Mr. Jones. And this is directed by Agnieszka Holland and is about a journalist who goes to Russia, and this is a true story, and uncovers all the horrible things happening with the famine on his mission to have an interview with Stalin. And this man had already had an interview with Hitler, and so he was pretty well known at this point for going after those interviews with big world leaders at the time. And of course the film starts with this really one of my biggest pet peeves about films that take place in a time like a previous time period is when they obnoxiously hint at something bad happening in real life. And that this film opens with Mr. Jones coming back to all the bigwigs at the papers and leaders of Britain and talking about his interview with Hitler. It's like, I felt like if this plane went down, we could have saved the future of Europe. Something bad's happening, because this was like 1933 or something like that. And all of them like, and just like scoffing at the idea that this Hitler is this big bad problem. And I'm like, okay. And it felt awkward and out of place. That's just a side thing for me. It might not bother you, but it definitely bothers me when films make obnoxious hints at future events. Yeah, it was stupid, at least in my opinion. But to get back to the actual film, this is a very well made historical film. It looks great, it's shot well, everyone gives solid performances. Technically, it's there, but something about it just doesn't deliver. It doesn't pop. And I feel like that happens a lot with historical films, because it's like, you really capture the atmosphere and all those kinds of things, but like something about the story just doesn't pop. And there's particular scenes in this film that do really, really, really work. Especially when he's out in the countryside and he starts seeing frozen bodies scattered everywhere. And those scenes, they're like next level compared to the rest of the film. And this film kind of bounces around a lot. It's trying to capture the whole atmosphere of the political landscape, I guess, in Russia at the time. Because like, I feel like there's plot points in here that just wander too far from the point, and you're just sitting there, it's like, what's the point of including this scene? And there's one particular one when Mr. Jones first gets to Russia, goes to this party invited by Peter Skarsgård, who's, I'm trying to think if he's like the actual ambassador or not from Great Britain, but like, he's very obviously corrupt, and he goes to this party and like, he's like half naked walking around this party. Orgies are happening, and it's just like, I understand if this film was supposed to be about the underbelly of like the political system and stuff like that, but it's like, in the grander scheme of things, I'm like, why are we going on these like offshoots of scenes like this? And it's just like, does this really further the plot? When it's just like, well, we already got introduced to this character and he already seems sketchy. And in general, the cast does a good job. Like James Norton, who plays Gareth Jones, he does a fine job. He brings a solid performance. He's a nice anchor in this film. Like George Orwell pops up, and there's another moment of like, it cuts away and it's like George Orwell sitting there writing Animal Farm, and it's just like, I feel like this script really leans into like, here's a thing that's going to influence the future. You know what we're talking about. And it's just like, okay, yeah, I do. You don't really need to throw it out there as part of this film to tell this story. But in general, it's like, this was an important story, and I don't feel like this film really did it justice. But there are particular scenes that really did work. When I take a step back and really think about it, this kind of feels like just a by-the-numbers kind of historical drama. And in the end, I'll probably never watch this again. But if you really like historical dramas, you might check this out. If you don't, this probably isn't a thing for you. You're probably not going to get a whole lot out of it. But This one is also from Princeton Garden Theater's website, or I think you can rent it on Amazon. But if you want to check out Mr. Jones, if you enjoy those historical dramas, this might be a thing for you. If not, this might be a good pass. But those are my thoughts on Mr. Jones. Let me know what you think and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.